Let's start with an easy one.
Okay.
What did the Buddhist monk say to the man at the hot dog stand?
Okay.
Make me one with everything.
Today we have a video about Buddhism and how it can help you to reach a peace of mind. This video is from Jubilee, and there are several people asking this Buddhist monk about existentialism. They have a divided wall between them so that there's no superficial judgment involved. But instead of this Buddhist monk, I will be answering these questions. So let's see what happens.
Is there any life form that you would like to reincarnate into?
So regarding reincarnation, I have my own interpretation. As with most religions, scripts are written in a very abstract form. It's up to us to interpret what they really mean. There's a very important reason to that. And as for explanation, think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, pyramid of self-actualization. A hungry person cannot understand, cannot fathom the depth of topics of self-actualization and spirituality when he or she is hungry. Of course, there are some outliers, but they only prove the point. When your consciousness is at a level of basic needs, it's very difficult to comprehend very complex stuff. And this includes understanding philosophy, spirituality, going beyond the physical form. And as to my interpretation of reincarnation, it implies a rebirth of your character, of your persona, when you die to your past, when you become reborn as a new person and cannot really identify with the person you were yesterday. It's a natural progression of your wisdom, knowledge of life. Anyhow, I will get back to the point of reincarnation as we go along the video.
Regarding rebirth and reincarnation, what are your beliefs on that? If you look at reincarnation as being a possibility, it kind of inspires compassion, correct?
Reincarnation is a process of your personal development. As you become more wise, more understanding, more empathetic in life in general, you become more compassionate. As I said before, it's very hard to see the truth when your sight is blinded by basic needs. And as you go along with life, you face adversities, you overcome them, hopefully, and you become wiser, you understand the point of life, and every piece of the puzzle falls into the place. And you see more clear the holistic picture and how every piece is dependent on each other.
I've read that Buddhists believe that suffering is necessary for life. What is an instance in your life that you've suffered from that you had to learn about?
Personally, I've experienced suffering in several stages. As some of you already know, I live in Europe. Me and my family moved here when I was a teenager. We were facing a very hard time, which stretched several years. And that period of time taught me a lot of patience, gratitude, perseverance, basically survivability. Fast forward some time, I graduated from university, acquired a job, worked there for a time, then realized that wasn't my thing. I was feeling very lost and lonely. So I detached myself from that life. At some time I realized that everything that I thought was true was a lie, and I had to come up with a lot of revelations, sit down, talk to myself, make an assessment of where I was and where I was headed, to basically stop and ponder about life in a very philosophical way. And I became more interested about these topics of psychology, philosophy, personal development. I had panic attacks and anxiety, depression. Basically, the whole identity of the person that you see here on camera was stolen from me. But in reality, I realized that I was clinging to a picture that never was there. I finally accepted the fact that people come and go to your life, and there's nothing personal when they leave you. There's always a lesson in any instance, in any experience of life that you go through. I went through an extensive process of detachment from people, from things, different kind of status attributes, like having a degree or having a hotshot job. So suffering truly is one of the best teachers in life. And going back to the first question about reincarnation, that is what happens to a person. You die to your past, you become something new, you evolve, you lose all the qualities that were less favorable to you and keep those that always were advantageous. You learn something new and you rise from ashes like a phoenix.
What are your thoughts on forgiveness?
I have a good video on forgiveness, and I suggest you that you would check this out. It's not about the person that you're forgiving. It's always about yourself. You're forgiving so that you can release the shackles, lose the weight on your shoulders that drags you back, that slows you down. When you keep inside that hatred or that distaste or distrust towards someone else, it's you who suffers. Resentment is like drinking poison and expecting a rat to die. So forgiveness is necessary, and it can be referred to the point of detachment. You detach yourself from thoughts, from emotions, and you become totally unhinged so that you can move freely, both in your physical body and mentally. Taming the ego essentially means understanding your emotions, processing them, and not letting them to weigh you down. The more your ego grows, the further you stray away from your true path.
You expect life to turn out one way, and you make an idea, you see your friends with their, their parents, their cousins, their aunts, families, and friends, and when your life is a little different than that, and you're young, it's kind of hard to process. So that was a perfect answer.
Yes, it's very easy to become very traumatized when you're a child because you don't have this ability of abstract thinking and rationalizing your emotions and find a better way to deal with them, to cope with them. You have to have this emotional clump as a child in order to make sure that your needs are met. But as you grow older, you become more mature, you start to think more abstractly, rationally, see things clearer. Don't let your emotions dictate your life. You attain the right tools in dealing with life.
Do you believe there are truly evil people out there in the world? And do you think they can ever redeem themselves?
Let me put it like that. Just because people possess the ability to think in a very conscious way doesn't mean that we stop being animals. We are first and foremost animals. And there are no good or bad animals. They are doing the basic stuff that they need to do in order to survive. Now, in order for something to be bad or good, there has to be social contract. For example, before slavery was very okay and it was encouraged. It was a good thing. But then our consciousness as human beings, as species, has evolved, and we understood that all people are the same basically, and there's no difference in intellectual capabilities dependent on your background, on your skin color or something else. And what we think that is moral today can change drastically tomorrow. So for something to be good or bad, it has to be consistently congruent with the social contract that is prevalent the moment being. Murdering, plundering, raping has always been a part of human nature. And just because we think that it's bad for us to do that doesn't necessarily mean that those people were evil. They were doing what was acceptable at the time being. And I am not saying that we should harm other people, but I am saying that it was necessary for that time being in order to survive. The whole point of this is that when we think about someone as being bad, we don't take into consideration that that person might be just misunderstood. And I'm not talking about violence per se. I'm talking about genuinely bad person in a social context. So being good or bad is a social construct as well. It's always about the point of view, the perception. And that being said, I don't think that people are pre-programmed when they enter this world. And every bit of the quality that we acquire, besides the primal instincts, is a point of social nurture.
Do you have anything to say to someone who's struggling with finding peace in this world?
It becomes harder and harder to find peace this day and age. The only way to find peace is to dive deep into yourself and figure out who you are really. And it boils down to detaching yourself from all kinds of distractions that we have. Socializing yourself with your friends each and every evening and surfing several hours a day, having girlfriends and boyfriends and having children. All of these stuff are only making you distracted from finding the real truth. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes emotional energy, but you won't get there if you don't start at all. Hopefully you learned something from this video. Hopefully you can teach me something in the commentary section. Tell me what you think about these kind of philosophical videos. If you would like to have some more, like this video, subscribe, or saying out. Jesus Christ, I'm sweating like a pig here.